Yeah, I'm back. Fuck's abhorrent. Anyways, this is going to be, as I said, a rambling diatribe on an absurdity. Um, and that absurdity is going to be the following. First of all, I want to talk about YouTube glitches. One thing I like about Twitter, and I've had my issues with Twitter before, it has not always been so kind to me. But nevertheless, I've talked about it, but nevertheless, one thing I like about it is it allows for statistics and statistical analysis of your comments. So you know if you post something on Twitter, you know if it posted because, like, if you post a reply, you know if it posted or not because you'll get the statistics and the number will start to go up. You know, you have to be careful to make sure it's not you viewing your comment yourself, but the more views you get, the more obvious it becomes if it took or not. One thing I don't like about YouTube is it's hard to know if your shit posted. And there's a guy I like. I've actually contacted him on Twitter. Not contacted, but I've replied to some stuff. I saw him in a comment section on Bernie Sanders' webpage. I guess he's not a fan of Bernie Sanders. He used to be. I don't know what happened there. But Strix Hexenhammer 666. And of course, again, my Twitter page is Humanist Philosophies. But anyways, I commented on his one of his posts on YouTube 2 different times and it didn't take. So I went back to an old post he did that was anti-circumcision from like a couple of months ago. And that comment took. I posted another comment, it took, and then I posted one more, and it took on this new post, the newest post he left. And the odd thing about this, of course, is it was asking pretty much, am I blocked by him? And if he saw this, am I, or something. And then, of course, from what I can see, that comment took, and I even logged out, and I can still see it. It's to where the other comments, even logged in, I couldn't see them. So after 2 different tries, the comment finally took. So that's very bizarre, and it makes me look like a complete idiot. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, that's one thing I like about Twitter, is the statistics, because that shows you if your comment took or not very much. So you don't really have to waste your time logging out and in as much or as often. But anyways, beyond that, I would like to talk about something that still fills my body up with bile and hatred, and that's Dr. Drew Pinsky. That's another crack that I actually commented on his stuff on Twitter, and I hashtagged something. Dr. Pinsky also once said on the Adam Carolla show, probably the most overrated podcast of all time, mind you, that he was pro-mandatory vaccinations, and he doesn't even give specifics as to what kind. Keep in mind, these vaccinations often contain mercury that have been linked to autism and so forth, as well as circumcision or genital mutilation of infants. And he said it should be mandatory. So I guess so much for the parental rights. So not only do the children not have a right to choose, I guess the parents shouldn't in his worldview either. Funny how that snowballed, isn't it? But anyways, as much as that's a reason for me to hate this fucking ambulance chasing prick's guts, another reason why I hate the man is because he's essentially a crook. And I think, and of course, you know, this is a Doug Stanhope joke, more or less, if you've ever heard him. But he's a rehab specialist to the stars. Okay, he only treats celebrities. And that's funny because I'm thinking about going to gynecology school and I'm going to become a gynecologist. But I'm only going to fucking treat Nordic blonde porn stars with like stinkless pussy. Only those, because it's a burden, but someone's got to do it. You know, I just want to give back to the community. Yeah, he's a fucking scumbag and a scam artist, fucking people out of money. And what is his ultimate fucking solution, or his ultimate cure-all be-all for every fucking problem these people have after he's made his money? That is. Out these rich fucks, and that is simply this: you need to find religion. Yeah, Jesus is a cure, or you know, go to your synagogue, your local synagogue, or your cathedral, or church, or whatever, or go to your mosque or your Buddhist temple or whatever the fuck you believe in. But God, yeah, find God. Yeah, you know, it's funny how you could have saved a lot of time and a lot of effort and those people a lot of probably money if you had just told these motherfuckers that to begin with. So you're kind of a scam artist, aren't you? Yeah. And obviously, I have my issues with addiction, alcohol addiction. So I'm not making light of drug addiction, mind you. I know drug addiction is a hell of a lot more severe than alcohol addiction. But I'm just saying he's a scam artist. Anyways, moving on. What else was I wanting to talk about? Genital mutilation. I just want you to sit back, and I've said this before, but just think about how fucking absolutely Orwellian it is that you still allow in the 21st century, at this point in history, in a first world nation and what's supposed to be the leader of the free world and the modern Roman Empire, pretty much, the world superpower, United States, you still mutilate your infant children's genitals. And in some cases, they're doing it to children older than that, such as a 6-year-old boy. I can't think of his name, Chase or something. I can't think of what his name was. I want to say Corey, but I don't think that was his name. But he was actually taken from his mother, who did not want the procedure done by the father. After going through years of court battles, and at the age of 6, the court ruled in the father's favor that the mother should have to let him be mutilated because the father wanted it done. Because of some papers they signed or something having to do with medical issues when he was born or some shit. So essentially, the American doctors allowed a 6-year-old boy to be surgically raped. So I get so much for remembering and so much for the parental rights, at least in the case of the fucking mother. But that's bizarre to me. And of course, there's pictures of her like crying in court, like, you know, because she's trying to obviously help the child. So this is kind of like King Solomon's story of, you know, who loves a child more, cut it in half. It's kind of like the ass backwards version of that, where you not only give the child to the person that obviously cares less about them, but is in the process of proving that without any kind of fucking solicitation by the king or by the government, where the courts of Florida, in this case, and it was Florida, says, yes, let's give it to the obviously less deserving piece of shit father to mutilate. And that's what you did. So that's interesting. What else did I want to talk about here? Wrestling is something else I would like to talk about. I don't really follow new wrestling. Till recently, I wasn't even watching much of the old stuff. I got back into it. I'm trying to get back into it. But I do like Vince Russo. But it seems obvious to me that what they need to do is appeal to more or less a young male audience. And they also should represent various subcultures. And they should represent the LGBTQ community. And I find it interesting they have never had, in spite of all of their work with GLAAD and all this other PC shit and feminism, they've never had so much as one transgender pro wrestler that I'm aware of in WWE history. And there are at least several transgender wrestlers out there. And by the way, Vince Russo, who wrote wrestling's most successful period of time, the Attitude Era for WWF, and the only reason WWE and the rich fucking assholes that run that joint are still in business is because of Vince Russo writing that show. He actually interviewed, even though he was accused of transphobia and homophobia by assholes like Brian Satin, who, by the way, is a lunatic. He interviewed a transgender woman. I can't think of her name, but she was a pro wrestler in Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling. And he helped her come out of the closet as being transgender. And he also has a transgender woman. God damn, what's her name? I really feel like an idiot. But anyways, he has a transgender woman that hosts a show on his brand network. I cannot remember her fucking name. I can't remember either one of them. I do feel like an idiot. But anyways, the point that I'm making is, I find it interesting that the feminist PC fucking wrestling company that likes to slap men and the women are going to beat up the men and all this horse shit. And look up TNA, by the way, the same people that didn't know Vince Russo, the same guy that wrote for them for about, 8 years, or the better part of a fucking decade. didn't know who he was, supposedly. Anyways, I find it funny how TNA puts the title on Tesla Blancer a while back, and of course I couldn't commentate on this because YouTube decided it would essentially violate my free speech rights as a human being to talk. But I find it funny how they put the belt on her, and she talks about how women need to work and get together, and then she has multiple women come out against her, not only accusing her of bullying and harassing other women, but they then fucking accuse her, of course, of being a racist cunt and fucking calling other women the N-word. And not only that, she then says, you know, I made mistakes and all this other shit. Well, geez, so did Hulk Hogan. You still punished him. So did fucking lots of fucking people in this country who have said lots of dumb things. And if this was a man who did any number of these things, you wouldn't be saying, well, he made a mistake, let's forgive him. But this person, you put the world heavyweight title on in a wrestling match, and I've not seen the damn match, but I'm sure the guy just went out there and probably flipped around for it for 5 fucking minutes. And good luck getting the damn title off the chick now and actually ever getting it back on a guy, because God forbid they actually have a real wrestling match. And I know they won't, because I've seen this shit before, and it's just a guy go out there and get beat up. So that's shit. And they won't do a female low blow, but they'll kick a guy in the nuts every goddamn week, and the guys kick each other, and it looks fake because they do it so damn much. And if you did that damn much, you'd probably kill the motherfucker. So that's not even realistic. But anyways, just fuck the entire thing, and fuck the United States. And of course, we're probably going to go to war with Iran. I actually, a really hot girl, by the way, is a chick called Syrian Girl. She does work on Alex Jones's website, and Alex Jones actually interviewed Strix Hexenhammer that I was just talking about. And I'm a big fan of Strix Hexenhammer. I don't agree with him all the time, but I like him. But anyways, Syrian Girls talks about how we essentially funded the and I've talked about this before, but we've essentially funded ISIL in Syria, and we did. And that's what Ron Paul called blowback, or CIA blowback. And of course, Andrew Yang, by the way, is out of the election. Some people are saying they will still vote for him. But, you know, I'm not shocked at all that one of the better candidates, and one of the few people that actually did come out to condemn male infant genital mutilation or circumcision of children, non-consensual circumcision of children, and pretty much what amounts to surgical rape of children. It's funny, you know, but I'm not shocked that he lost. And he also said we need to slaughter less animals or raise less animals for livestock. And he talked about the harm that's doing to the environment. No kidding, one of the better candidates lost. Tulsi Gabbard can still barely get on the fucking debate stage. And really our only hope is Bernie Sanders, because especially if you look at the damn fucking budget that fucking Trump is laying out for next year. Supposedly, not only is he looking at a war with Iran that Sanders is trying to stop, and he met with United States Congress to try to stop this by saying only Congress can declare war, because that's supposed to be the way it is. And Bush fucked us over and got us in a war with Iraq without congressional approval, by the way, because that's what Republicans do. And not that Obama was any better, but still, or Bill for that matter, but still. And God forbid Hillary won, that would be a disaster. But Trump also is now trying to cut Social Security, just like Carlin said. They stole your wealth. They stole the wealth or remaining wealth of the middle class and even low-level rich people. They have destroyed and collapsed the middle class. They have enslaved your children to debt for college degrees that they told you to go get. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want it back to give to their criminal friends on Wall Street, and they'll get it from you. They'll get it all from you. And that's what they're doing. And he wants to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and a lot of other things. So he's essentially fucking over the working class in this country, supposedly for next year, once he wins that fucking election. And he's essentially like a snake line and rate. Just like when he took over and he talked about getting rid of food stamps and replacing with a box, or, you know, probably selling it green. And he also talked about he kicked transgender people out of the military. He overturned a law that would allow transgender students nationwide, I believe, to use the bathroom that fits their identity in high school and college and places. And he's done a number of things anti-trans after saying he had no problem with transgender people and he lets them use his bathroom in his towers. He turned his back on them, and he's just shown himself to be the monster that he is. And of course, he bombed Syria and everything else. But over the last 2 or so years, he's been laying in rate and acting like a nice guy, so that when he finally wins the second time around, he doesn't have to run for fucking office again. He can really stick it to our ass. That's what he's doing. He's really going to fuck us this time. But of course, you still love Ronald Reagan. After all those years of lying and hypocrisy, you still think he was a great. You still think You still think the real 666. You still think Ronald Reagan. You still think he was a great president. And you still haven't realized he's fucking you. Same thing for George Bush. Some of you. I mean, some of you love Obama. You never learn your fucking lesson. All you fucking feminist cunts want to vote for Hillary Clinton just because she has a vagina. You're idiots. And Bill Maher, by the way, is another crook because he's a Democratic loyalist and he blames teenagers and people that are 18 that's not even graduated fucking high school for the sins and failures of his baby boomer generation and old rich white men as well as Generation X, and they're all boomers, and so am I because I'm now in my late 20s and I'm essentially part of the problem. But these kids that are graduating high school are not part of the problem. And also, I mean, he's talked about hitting children and things in the past. And he's even defended male circumcision of children. And he seems to have a high level of tolerance of violence against children because that's the kind of person he is. He's a rich white fucking prick, and he can go join the Republican Party and fucking blow George Bush, as far as I'm concerned, and Ronald Reagan's corpse, along with the rest of the rich ass white assholes like fucking Michael Bloomberg, that fucking New York billionaire that he fucking supports, and the rest of the Wall Street class, because that's who he is. So he can go join the Republican Party and fuck him and the rest of his evil machinations and his evil faggoty fucking golf courses. So yeah, fuck the world. T666.